How you doing, YouTube? Oh man, this is a weird one, you know, but we're here. So how you doing? Of course I'm late because why wouldn't I be late? Because that's me. Because I am a genius, and I decided that like 20 minutes before I go live, might as well update my Windows PC. Do all the updates, might as well, because that doesn't take forever. I didn't have to do it, but I decided to do it because I'm me and I do dumb things. So there you go. So that's why I'm late. Plus, I'm always late, so there's no excuse. So better late than never, as I put. So welcome to the last ish live stream here on Mass Beer Reviews. I get, I preface that with, I don't know what the future is going to hold. And we're going to cover all this in this live stream. Probably miss a bunch of stuff. I tried to write some stuff down. I'm sure I'm going to miss a ton of stuff in here. But for those that didn't watch my last video, which if you didn't, you can go and watch it. This will be here forever. It just basically says that I'm just going to stop doing BeerTube. End sentence. Ever since I made that announcement, and of course, again, me being me, I couldn't help but post that an announcement on April 1st, because why not mess with people? Because that's who I am. But it's real. I decided, I decided a while ago that I kind of wanted to stop the channel, but I really didn't know, probably last year in 2025, I decided I wanted to kind of stop doing beer reviews for a couple reasons. Again, we'll cover all those here. And it just, I didn't really have the push that I needed. And that push I needed, I think, was turning 50. Turning 50 in combination with just wanting to live a different life. Listen, preface all this with first world problems, talking into a camera, drinking a beer, talking about it, explaining it away, doing all those fun things. There's no real heavy lifting involved in that. And I've gotten my setup to the point where I could record videos super easily. If I want to do a beer review, I could go in here into my studio. I could record a video. I could hit, end and be out of here in less than 15 minutes. Just because I have my lights are all automated, my camera's static, my mic, everything's static here. So, it was very easy for me to pop in, do a beer review, and it was actually kind of like that as far as just my rigmarole and the way I would go around kind of my process in which I did beer reviews. It was the same for years and years and years. But what it changed, man, it changed probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Just it got to be a little bit more, I don't have something to post. I got to record something. Whereas back in the day, it'd be like, well, I have a huge backlog, and just record some more videos anyway. That used to be the way it would go. And, it was a combination of a bunch of different things. My professional life taking off and family and all those things just come to a head. And as I covered in depth, like I said, in the kind of farewell video, not this live stream, but the previous video, it got to the point where it was just not a chore. It was just, it was secondary, and it wasn't just mind-bogglingly fun. So I decided to give it the old heave ho. Like I said, it's a combination of me turning 50, me being, not the healthiest person in the world. Not that I'm a super healthy person right now. I'm way healthier than I was a few months ago. I'm actually down quite a bit in weight. Not sure if it shows on camera, but I've lost 40 pounds essentially since the beginning of the year. And not all from quitting beer. I just want to preface that too, is that, beer consumption responsibly and sometimes irresponsibly at times, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do those things and live a very fun and very healthy life. I'm not coming on here to get on a soapbox and ramp against or bash against beer and all that fun stuff. It's just I just wanted to, my kid's 5 and he's super athletic and he wants to do stuff all the time, and it just got to be, just a tired old dude, and I just didn't want to be as a tired-ish of an old dude. So I decided in combination with, the beer channel and recording reviews, you know, over the years. It just, you know, it just got to be, you know, just that much more of a, I call it an obligation. Again, no one else calls it that, but I call it an obligation because I felt there was a certain standard I wanted to keep. You know, honesty, you know, no bullshit, you know, speak my mind, often confident, always confident, often wrong. You know, things that are kind of tenets to what I thought was my own personal compass when it came to doing this beer channel. It was never about like, I'm going to say nice things about a brewery because they sent me beer, or I'm going to say bad things about a brewery because they didn't send me beer, or anything in between those two spectrums. That was never really the MO. It was just me kind of doing it because I was like super into it, you know, and I just wanted to kind of have my voice out there in the ether for whoever wanted to listen to it or watch it, if you will. And it just, you know, in the combination of all those things, I just decided, you know what, let's go the opposite direction. That's the kind of person I am. You know, when I decide to do something, I tend to go in, you know, full bore. So the kind of getting not as shitty health-wise, and again, it's not like I'm quitting the channel because I'm, like, got cirrhosis or something's wrong with me. That's not it. It was just more like, you know, I was just like, you know, I was like, let's try this other way the other people live, you know. And I'm not becoming a health nut. I'm not out there working out like crazy. My weight, like I said, my weight loss isn't attributed solely to the lack of drinking beer. That helps a lot. You know what I mean? But it's, you know, lifestyle changes, the way I eat, eating less, you know what I mean? Medication's part of it too. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's not just, you know, my personal transformation is not just, you know, quit beer and I'm going to be a healthier person. That's part of the equation. But I decided, you know, let's just do it. Let's just do it. We'll end it. And I made that decision probably, you know, I would say probably earlier in the year, if not later, you know, to actually end the channel. Much earlier, the rumblings were there inside my brain. And I had a little bit of a backlog, and I decided, you know what, let's hold off till April, just because I started my channel in April 2012, so it's a 14-year kind of loop. So it just kind of made sense in my brain, that kind of symmetry to everything. And you know, I decided, like I said, post a video on April 1st just to mess with people. And I actually was going to do this live stream last week. I posted my first video ever on April, I think it was 7th. Or 8th, again, I can't even remember, of 2012, and I had it scheduled for last week, but I ended up getting sick, so I was like, just move it a week, who gives a shit, and just had this perfect kind of symmetry and everything, you know, the way everything kind of went down, you know, you know, I've lost actually probably about 10 subscribers since I made my announcement. It was fine, whatever, but I'm just short of being at 10,000 subscribers. I'm just short of 5,000 beer reviews, 14 years almost on the nose. So there's a lot of like symmetry going on with a lot of this stuff. So it all just kind of made the most sense in the world. I will say this. Well, let's get to some comments real quick before we get too deep, in case we get inundated with comments. We have Bill chiming in. Bill is a longtime viewer of the channel, constantly on the live stream. Said, hey Matt and everyone, thanks for the great years. Happy to be here for this one. Appreciate you joining in, Bill. Your love over the years has not gone unappreciated. JPR says, Matt, love the channel. Hope you still pop on from time to time. Give Bell's Fly Over Lager a try. Summer Chugger. And that, you know, we'll speak to that. You know, I'm not gonna not drink beer anymore. I mean, I'm gonna drink an non-alcoholic beer right now just because we're doing this channel. But it's, you know, it's not out of my life. It's just not part of a core tenet, I guess you'd say, in my life. You know, we're lucky in New Jersey that we have other means if we want to, you know, imbibe and other things other than alcohol. So, Dirty Glass Mafia for those that still pay attention to these things. And, you know, cheers. Cheers. Man, I just cleaned this glass like 10 minutes before I walked in. I will say this, hottest day of the year, windows are open, dust everywhere. Kill me. What are you going to do? Unsubscribe? Don't care. So yeah, thank you very much, Matt, for the love, and I will keep an eye out for that Bell's. Cam, long viewer of the channel, beer mailer of the channel. What's up, Matt? Bummed to see the channel ending, but I had a great time watching your videos. these past couple of years and bombarding me with some beer mails for a hot minute. Haha, more than a hot minute. I appreciate the love, brother. And then Logan, man, what a run. Thanks for making it so fun and always keeping it real. Thank you very much. Logan, for those that don't know, Logan has been a longtime viewer of the channel, longtime sub. If you are, well, like good people, but more specifically, if you're into photography and you're into sports, go check out Logan. It's basically search his name right there without the numbers at the end on the internet, and you'll find him. He is a photographer and quite an amazing one at that. He does a lot of sports photography for the NFL and a lot of other sports leagues, but the NFL is the big one that I noticed because I'm just following him on Instagram. And he's on the sidelines. He's taking pictures of the first round draft picks, that kind of level of stuff. So yeah, definitely give Logan a check. But yeah, so back to the whole shtick. I decided, it was just time to give it a whirl. And honestly, I'm kind of digging it. Not thinking about having to do a beer review is pretty fun. Again, I haven't done a beer review probably since the beginning of the year, close to it. And honestly, just not drinking beer has been kind of a cool twist. Listen, the beer industry is in a very bad place right now. The worst thing, or the last thing they need, is people like me not drinking beer anymore, because that takes money out of their pockets. So I'm part of the problem here when it comes to that. So my apologies to all the breweries over the years, more specifically the ones that have supported the channel over the years, and we'll touch on those at some point during this live stream. But it's just one of those things where it's just, it's been a cool change of pace. Just the idea of, what I mean, like doing things without beer. And I know that sounds like a little bit alcoholish, you know what I mean? And you can quantify it as that, and I'm not saying that's wrong. But, like beer was always kind of like a sidecar for me for a lot of different things, like video games is a big one. If I came out here, I love video gaming, when I broadcast on these, I have a gaming PC, pretty decent one, and PlayStation up there in my server rack and the whole nine. So I'm constantly playing games. It was, to start a video game and to crack a beer to me was kind of like 6 of 1, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna play some video games, let's have a beer. And I trained myself to be like that for, God, 30 years. That's crazy to think about. 30 years of doing that kind of thing. I spoke about this previously, but taking talking, kind of circling back and thinking about, like, I haven't had a beer since the beginning of February, and I should say that. I'm gonna say alcohol from here, because it's been alcohol across the board. It's just beer was my alcohol of choice. Not having any alcohol since beginning of February. We're going over 2 months now. It's been a cool thing, especially since it's been so long. I was a beer drinker, I was a partier in high school, and that kind of, from my, living, that working in a tattoo studio for 18 years allows a lot of nightlife, and being a techno DJ and going out and about and doing all these things. There was a lot of imbibing across the board, both liquid and non, and it was never like, to me it was like, I'd go a week or two without having a drink. That's normal, I think, you know what I mean, for some people. And there's weeks when I'd have a beer a couple times a week, or drink a couple times a week, or whatever it may be. But to go months, I don't remember when that was the last time I did that. So it's just a cool kind of little personal little thing. And we're getting this all out of the way now, because this is going to be a beer positive live stream. But it's just been, for me personally, been a very cool kind of trip. Just from the personal, whatever, just abstinence, to the kind of body transformation on top of other lifestyle changes and the whole nine, being as light. Let's put it this way. I'll quantify this for y'all. I am the same weight I was when I graduated high school. That to me is insane. Now, I was always a big dude, so I'm still 200, in the 210s, give or take, right around now. But that's what I was, as well. Defensive end, outside linebacker, and football in the college, and I was always a bigger person, so I even gained more weight to those, and I topped out, in the course of my time, I topped out probably 300 and plus. At some point, it wasn't long lived, but a bulk of my adult life has vacillated between 260 to 280. I would say probably from my mid 20s to, to my late 30s. That's where I've been. For the past 10 years or so, I've probably been more like the 60, 260s, 270s. But, last time I saw 250 was, a long time. And, when I started this journey, I hit 250 and I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's kind of crazy. And then, I went to my doctor, I went through it, started seeing a doctor again, started taking care of some things and got down, after a month, I was down to 240. So I was like, lost like decent amount of weight. And then, not 240, 225, Jesus Christ. I'm lying to y'all already. I was down to like 225 and change. I was blown away after a bit over a month. And, ever since then, it's been another like 10, give or take about 10 pounds or so. It's been a cool journey, man. It's been a cool personal kind of journey to go through those things, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the past. Um, it's been crazy, just the journey in general. You know, um, I've talked about this stuff in the previous video, but we'll rehash it all because guess what? It's my party, and I'll yammer if I want to. It's been a crazy journey, from starting a channel based off of pure hubris to, just, starting a channel and starting to do beer reviews as like a thing. When I first started doing beer reviews, I was fresh out of an extremely long relationship, and I was just looking for something else to kind of like, just to put myself into. I always enjoyed beer. I always loved craft beer. Got into craft beer, like I said, in the late 90s, early 2000s, said previously in a bunch of videos. And, it just kind of became like, peas and carrots kind of situation. It was very, very, very natural for me. I mean, we can dip into maybe my first review ever just to see how bad it was. Maybe that'll be a fun little watch along while we do this a little bit later. But, it's one of those things where it just kind of fit and it was fun, and did it no other reason other than to have fun and to meet people, and I met people quite quickly, but to go into that world and start meeting people, the first people I really kind of glommed onto is probably the best way to put it, were a lot of the Canadian beer tubers. Back then there was some US beer tubers and quite some decently prominent US beer tubers, from Beer Geek Nation, to, what I mean, like there was the Better Beer Authority, and like I mean, and Master Hobbits was going on back then. I actually believe he was even might be living in the States by then. I know he was going to university over here for quite some time, and met there's a bunch of US beer tubers, Ryan Rashawn, and just a bunch of people, and then I, initially gone down a lot of Canadian beer tubers just because, there's this guy semi-local to me, Paul. It was Paul at PA Brew News. Now it's Reenley's Ales and Loggers and Ales, I believe is the name of his channel. He also does PA Outdoor Couple with his beautiful wife. He didn't live close. He lives relatively close to me, but then he would hang out with a lot of Canadian beer tubers. Albino Rhino, to Nick from Maxwell Star Beer Reviews, to Lee, the original king of Beer Tube, Lee Russell, to everybody from Ewart to all the people, Guy, and like all the people that met Greg and everybody they met from up there. And that was like a lot of these, a lot of the of formative years when it came to beer tubing was doing that stuff, doing weekly hangouts. Beer Dweebs United was like a Wednesday hangout they would do constantly. I was a staple on that for years, and went up to Canada a couple times and hung out with those guys and had a blast. You know what I mean? Had an absolute 100% blast. Got to the point where, down here I just started to branch out a little bit more. There was a local radio show to me called Beer Geek Nation. Sorry, not Beer Geek Nation. Beer Geeks Happy Hour. and and listened to the show and became friends with the guy who did that and ended up becoming a co-host on the show. Derek, who was the original host, ended up deciding to leave, took over the radio show for quite some time, and that ran its course. But at that time, I was starting to get very, very heavily into the industry. I wouldn't say community because I was already into the kind of beer tubing community. It was more like an industry thing, and just started, oscillating and orbiting around a lot of different breweries and going to breweries and just end up becoming friends with a lot of the brewers and trying to promote craft beer as a whole. And it was quite the ride, man. You know what I mean? Like, so that the radio show, while it ran its course, ended up converting it into a podcast that I traveled around for several years. It did podcasts with a lot of awesome people. I always talk about my John Kimmich Alchemist episode is probably my favorite I ever done. But everybody, we did Dean from Treehouse and JC from Trillium, Jim Koch from Sam Adams, to a ton of the local breweries here in New Jersey, whether it be, Michael Kane from Kane Brewing and Augie Carton from Carton Brewing, had John Hall from All About Beer Magazine on a podcast, and then branched out even further from there. We had, people all the way from West Coast, Rare Barrel, Fort George Brewing, Modem Tones, Modern Times, sorry, El Segundo, from the radio show to the podcast, the breadth, how about that word, of different brewers and brewery owners, were absolutely fantastic. Just to orbit in that universe and become part of the community. It was cool, man. It was a very, 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 very cool ride. And it got hectic, man. It got really hectic there. It was crazy. The beer mail from viewers, and we'll go over viewers at some point, and I apologize if I forget some viewers, but it's not my intention. But the viewer beer mail started to get crazy. I started to get beer mails a couple times a week. To the point where I had to tell people, I'm like, I can't. At first, I was like, anybody sends me beer mails, I'm sending you beer. I wouldn't say that to them. But people send me beer, and I'd be like, give me your address, and I'd send them beer. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't do that. From a financial standpoint, I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Because then I'd be sending off like hundreds of dollars of beer a week to other people. I'm cool like that. I'm charitable like that. But it was just so much. And then combine that with the access. We did, again, podcast stuff. Shelton Brothers Fest. We did, you know what I mean? Like all these festivals and all these different breweries, getting into the inner circle of all that. So it was so fun to see the inner workings of how a brewery works. But at the same time, try to keep yourself at arm's length to a certain extent. I always envision myself, and I don't like using a word, but it's the best way I can quantify it. So if I piss some people off, then I piss you off. But I try to carry myself more as a journalist than a reporter. Reporting is this is this, this is this, this is this. And that's what a lot of people talk about in life, but also when it comes to beer. But it's also, there's a lot of weird little sidebars to that. There's a lot of beer tubers, very popular ones, that say just nice things just to say nice things. You know what I mean? If someone sends a beer, it's nice things. This is that. Someone stops sending a beer, or they send other people beer and they don't send them beer. They say bad things about the beer. Very petty, politicky bullshit. Never wanted a part of that. I always wanted to be a little bit more journalists mixed with Pandora. Now, when I say the word Pandora, a lot of you are like, what the fuck are you talking about? So before Spotify and all that stuff, there was a thing called Pandora. That was the originator. But just like Spotify, you'd put in music you like, and then eventually it'd start spitting out music that you think you'd like, based off of your input of what you enjoy. And that's kind of how I viewed the channel, along with a little bit of journalistic integrity. Always try to talk about beer with as much knowledge as I can muster, but at the same time, make it a little bit more personal. I like this, I don't like that, is part of it, along with this is negative, this is bad. There's two distinct differences to those things. There's a difference between a bad beer, a beer made badly, and a beer I don't like but is made really well. I tried really, really hard to make sure that is the line that I towed. And I think that resonated with a lot of people, not just the viewers, all you guys kind of packing in here. I'll tell you right now, this is by far the most people I've ever had in a live stream, I think. But it's one of those things where I think that did really resonate with a lot of people, because they know they weren't just getting fluff. They weren't getting, just for the sake of, I got something, so I'm going to say nice things. In outside of viewership, which I believe that it was a large part of my growth, because for the first couple of years, I did the whole rating system. I was finding my groove. I've always been a natural speaker, so I can talk to people. I can speak into a camera. And none of this makes me nervous. None of this makes me scared. But I was finding just the comfort level to be completely frank. And I think that resonated, like I said, not just with viewers, but a lot of breweries, because, when I first started the channel in the first few years, I would reach out to breweries every now and then and be like, hey, I have a beer tube channel. I'd love to cover some of your beers. A lot of it ended up being like weird little things that I wanted to get my hands on that I normally couldn't. As someone who's not a big trader, that's what it would be. But after a while, that got to be a little bit dirty, it just didn't feel right to me. So I was like, I'm not asking breweries for beer anymore. And then, the opposite happened. And a lot of breweries reached out to me about beer. From early on days, there was, I can't even tell you. It'd be interesting. It's weird because I don't have my old beer fridge here. My old beer fridge got graduated into the house as a mica fridge now. And then I have my beer fridge here, which doesn't really have a ton of stickers on it. But if I look at the side of the stickers, I was actually doing this the other day because I was like walking by the fridge and I was like, wow. Just looking at all the brewery stickers, and almost all these stickers came from breweries that sent me beer. I'm like, that's pretty crazy, anybody, from this tiniest little local place down the street to, a huge brewery, Pabst, you know what I mean, sent me beer. The brewery down the street gave me beer, Bissell sent me beer, and you know what I mean, Fulton Brewery out of Minneapolis, you know what I mean, can't talk about this. Hop Butcher has been a huge supporter of the channel, huge supporter of beer tubing in general. They've sent off so much beer over the years. Even recently, breweries that I've never gotten beer from before have reached out and have been sending. Firestone Walker has been a big one. They've been hitting, it seems like, beer tube a lot, and it kind of feels sad, a little bit sad about that one, because Firestone Walker has always been like a 10-pole brewery for me. So to actually have them start sending me stuff and be like, when I decided to stop the channel, they reached out to me probably, I want to say about 3 weeks before I decided to stop the channel for good. And they were like, oh, we have this monthly subscription, Brewers Box subscription. We'd love to send you, we'll send you beer every month. And I was like, hell yeah. And then I literally got a box. And then that day I wrote the guy, I was like, hey man, I'm sorry, I'm actually stopping the channel. It's just timing and all. And none of these people care. They care that I stopped the channel. I'm like, oh, that's so sad. I'm sorry. You've been, give me very, very nice words. But it's been just such a weird ride to go from just, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's been such a crazy ride. It's been an absolutely crazy ride. But that doesn't really paint the full picture. Okay? And we've touched on this briefly already. Actually, let's do some comments before we get further, because we got a bunch of stuff we need to cover, because I don't want to miss anybody. Last up, Last Beer. Cheers, brother. Cheers to you, homie. Last Beer, you want to check them out. Philly boy, gets a lot of PA beers, stuff like that. Greg Hey Matt, been following you for over 5 years and always enjoyed your work and look forward to your reviews. My wife and I will miss you and thank you for all you've done. All the best to you. Thank you very much, Greg. That was very nice. Um, Squinkenstein. Sorry to see these are ending, Matt, but you have amazing archive of fun and informative content. Thank you. Very appreciative, homie. Very cool. Dean, what's your final Mount Rushmore overall and for specific style? I'm gonna have to. You know what? First, full disclosure, I should have thought of this before doing this live stream. I have not, but I will answer that question in due time. Let's do overall. Not overall. Let's do IPA. No, sorry, geez. A specific style. What's my Mount Rushmore of specific style? Um, how much can I cheat at this? Is what I want to say. Barley wine is on there. There's no way barley wine doesn't exist. Barrel-aged barley wine is included, so barley wine's on Mount Rushmore status. IPA is. Anybody who says otherwise, unless they're a staunch IPA hater, some people might not say IPA, especially hazies, but IPA in general on Mount Rushmore. Lager is on there. Lager's on there. See, that's where I want to cheat though, because are we talking smoke lager? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So yeah, a crisp, clean lager. Let's go crisp, clean lager. Let's go English barley wine. We'll pen it down a little bit. Let's go hazy IPA. I'm gonna go hazy over clean West Coast. I am. I'm that guy. Hate on me. Unsubscribe. What would be fourth? I'm gonna cheat. Session beers. Let's do session beers because that can cover a large. We'll cheat at the last one because that can be anything below. I will say below 5%. It's probably low ABV hazy. Let's do low ABV hazy and then just regular IPA. So those are my Mount Rushmore. As far as beers, Mount Rushmore, we'll cover that. I have to put on the old thinking cap on that one for a little bit. We have Darn's beer reviews. This will be my buddy Mike, who will come up a little bit later when we talk about other things. But this is my buddy Mike, Mike B. You know him from some beer tubing videos, beer mails, the whole nine. He's a Jersey boy. I remember saw your videos back around COVID times, and I was like, wow, this guy is awesome. It'd be cool to meet up and give him a few to review. I was pumped that you were from New Jersey. Yeah, me too, man. Me and Mike were probably one of the last viewers to see me, which was when I went to a few months back. Went to the Human Robot Doubles Beer Fest down in New Hope, and we were hanging and chilling and stuff like that. So, but we'll talk about Mike a little bit later. Squinkenstein doing a little love, good love. Hey Matt, I hope you're doing well, my friend. Alex, cheers, Alex. Hope you're doing well too. Long story short, we met up many times, exchanged beers, drank a few, hung out, man. All the best to you and the fam. Hope to see you at Esker. Cheers, brother. Well, yeah, we're hanging, dude. I'm not going anywhere. Say what? Strange bruising is again Yuri, as I'd like to put it. Yeah, he's the man. He chimes in with a best to ever do it. Well, you're the best to ever do you, brother. And I miss you too, bud. Yuert's part of the Canadian beer tubing gang that I talked about previously, just before. Not necessarily a beer tuber. You could see strange bruisings, but he was more just someone that hung like some of the beer tubers are. But super good dude. We first met. It was like we bumped heads a hot minute and then became quick friends. So, yeah, I love you, Yui. Ted chiming in saying, as a Sussex County guy, I started a local beer by go, but best wishing to you the very best in the next chapters. Cheers, my homie. Gotta love the Sussex County fam. We always have Shelton brothers. We do, brother. We always do. Mount Rushmore, Thomas Hardy ×4. He knows what he knows it. See, that's the thing. See, I didn't even have to answer that question because Yui knows it. You can cheat and say ale and get a bunch. That's right. Ale and lagers. Those are my Mount Rushmore. Ales and lagers. And Alex Sherman, hey man, I'm gonna miss you doing beer reviews. Home one day, occasionally come back and do some beer reviews. I'll be back someday. I'm not going away forever. It's just me doing me. So yeah. If I look off camera, it's just 'cause I'm trying to remember shit I want to talk about. And then you know, the subscribers, man. And I say that with all the love of my heart because, calling some of the people I'm going to mention here, and I'm going to miss some people because there's been so many people over the years. So I'm like very, 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 very bummed if I miss your name. I am very, very, very sorry. But let's see. Get my list up here. Hold on 1 second. I know this is horrible. I don't know why I do it this way because it's way easier for me just to go to my YouTube and type in things. So anyway, okay. So, oh man, I'm gonna burp. Anyway, back. My brain has to get back into whatever mode. So I think the first person I ever met from BeerTube as a like subscriber, outside of local, because that was one of the cool part when I talked about the cool things that manifested itself from doing the BeerTube channel. One of the coolest things was meeting people at breweries. So if I forget what I'm talking about, go back to subscribers, but I'm going to go on a tangent. Meeting people at breweries, having people come up to me, and it sounds like it, especially pre-COVID, everything changed during COVID, but pre-COVID, man, it was crazy. It was crazy because, obviously I'm local, so I review a lot of local beer. I lived in PA, I live in New Jersey, but that was the tri-state area, including New York, that was my stomping ground. You know what I mean? Of breweries I would go to. And it was really, really weird for me to walk into a brewery and not have someone come up to me and introduce themselves. From the people in the brewery, like from the people drinking at the brewery, like brewers or owners would come up to me, but I was never that. I was never that guy. I never walked into a tap room, sat down, and like, hi, my name's Matt from Master Beer Reviews. I'm here to drink your beer. I would, it doesn't seem this way, but I'm actually a very introverted person. So I would go and sit down at a brewery and just drink some beers and, pay my bill and I'd leave. That's my MO. Every now and then I'd reach out to a brewery if it was like a way away from me, only because I'd try to like time like a podcast. I'd be like, hey, I'm traveling from the area. I want to see if you do a podcast. I'm gonna come to your brewery and drink and give me beer. So, but the amount of people that would like come up to me and be like, hey man, appreciate the videos, or hey, blah blah blah, come up to me and just end up just meeting this person once, never talking to them again. But then there's a lot of people kept in touch with. A lot of people end up becoming friends. A lot of people end up becoming like beer mailers and all that kind of stuff. And it was just insane. It was insane. And it felt good. I'm not gonna be that person to be like, oh, gee, fucking, I didn't care. No, when someone comes up to you, recognize it's a pretty cool fucking experience. So to have that be on the reg, especially during the heyday, was such a cool thing. And I appreciate the shit about it. And it was always extremely fucking humble. You know what I mean? If someone ever came up to me in the brewery and I was ever like, hi, I'm Matt, blah, 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 and I just ignored you, I didn't mean that, but I would go out of my way to spend time. You know what I mean? Like, and that sounds like a little bit like, oh, I'm going to spend time with the. That's not how I mean it, man. I'd be like, oh my God, if you have the balls, the cojones, the whatever, because I'm being an introverted person myself, come up and be like, hi, I'm blah, 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 like your videos, do all that stuff. That's so fucking cool of you to do that. Like, that's such a cool fucking thing to do. So to have people do that, to have people come up, to have people reach out physically in the real world off of me talking into YouTube, into effing YouTube, was just absolutely bonkers craziness. Anyway, so you met all these people out, but it was the subscribers, which was the crazy part. And it's weird because it's like, I think the first subscriber, I could be wrong here, and again, like I said when I first started this conversation before going on this tangent, that I just went on. Besides local, like hyper local to me, the first person to reach out and send me beer, I think it was my buddy Ben. He was a guy, Ben. He's just my buddy Ben now. I don't even know what else you want me to call him. We literally were texting. Now, granted, we were literally texting him less than an hour earlier today, but that was more because I posted on Instagram I was going to have this stream, and he's like, "Wait, you're quitting beer too?" But we text otherwise. He was the first person to send me beer, really, a viewer that I can remember. I can go back and look, but I'm not going to do that. And he's because he's not super far from me. He's like, "You got to check out this brewery called Rushing Duck." Rushing Duck ended up becoming one of my favorite breweries, especially semi-local to me. And this is like pre everything blowing up, so they're kind of like the only game in town up in Orange County, New York. Orange County, New York is Drownlands, Equilibrium. You know what I mean? Like there's a crazy amount of breweries up there. But now they were the only game in town, and he sent me a bunch of beers, and they become fast friends. The one I talk about a lot of times, I talk about, someone who was a subscriber actually came to my wedding. That is my buddy Tom. My buddy Tom Beam. I will say his last name. He won't care. But like he ended up sending beer mails. And then I forgot what happened. I don't know how we ended up hanging out for the first time. I don't know if it was, God, I forget when it was. I don't know if he came out and hung out with me or I went out to New York. But anyway, we ended up becoming like legit hanging friends. My buddy Brad, who was local to me, we ended up becoming friends through beer too. We knew each other before that, but we ended up becoming fast friends through beer. And he's done beer reviews with me before. So you go back in the day, look for the Heady Topper, Heady Topper versus a review. We did the aged Heady Topper in his garage for a year, and then we did a fresh versus the old one. Surprisingly, old one did not suck. Or I should say, spoiler alert, sorry. He ended up moving to New York. They became really good friends. So just kind of orbit universe. He came to my wedding, and then like I just talked about Mike. You know what I mean? Like ended up becoming like a local. Kind of we would meet up in the parking lot and trade some beers. And then I had a beer Tube Palooza at my house. The second one he ended up coming to. We'll cover beer Tube Palooza in a bit. And just just end up becoming like awesome, chilling friends. Steven from Connecticut, man. Good God. Steven was one of the I forget, I think Ralph came first. But Steven and Ralph are tied, if we're talking about Mount Rushmore of crazy MFing beer mailers. That would go to Steven, Ralph, Carson from, I would say, Jacksonville, but he moved out to Colorado. What up, Carson? It's been a while, brother. Hope you're doing well. And I don't know if I'd put fourth. Oh, Hot Butcher. I'll just put a Hot Butcher on it just because they're crazy. Hot Butcher sent me beer mails, I want to say, for like 4 years, and then started sending beer mails to other beer tubers and sent them as much as they sent me, plus more. So they're insane. More specifically, Jeremiah from Beer Tuber. Got to give the shout outs. But yeah, ended up, Steven was a crazy beer mailer. Him and Ralph. Steven ended up becoming a staple at Beer Tube Palooza, ended up becoming, just a friend, someone would hang out when we bumped, he'd come down here, he'd go to a retreat with his church, he'd come down this way and he'd pop in, or, we did a Beer Tube Palooza at his place before, just brewery hangs and just chilling and general conversation. There was Tom from Connecticut. Jesus Christ, it's been a minute. Tom was a crazy beer mailer. Mike from Illinois. I even had Matthew. I'm not going to say your last name, from Jersey. He would write all the time and converse about beer and all that great stuff. He actually just wrote me an email the other day. I'm going to respond to all the comments on my other video. I just haven't done it. I want to do this live stream first before I go and comment on all those comments that everybody posted on my farewell video. Just the amount of people that I would meet just from viewers, and I'm absolutely missing a ton of people. Who else? Cameron from out Illinois way. He sent me a bunch of beer. I'm just looking in my chat here of all the people that sent me beer. And I don't mean you sent me beer so you're one of my favorite viewers. It's just one of the easier ways for me to remember things. And just the amount of interaction that I had was insane, you know. And I will circle back to the beginning of the video and talk about one of the reasons why I stopped doing BeerTube was I stopped responding to comments. Um, it was one of the hugest red flags for me, and it was a long time coming. You know, probably happened right around like COVID, middle COVID. I don't know. Just something you would figure I had more time on my hands, and it was just hard, man. It was just something about it. There was just I just had a hard time commenting, and it was like the biggest red flag for me. And be like, you're not gonna go out of your way just to fucking. This person takes out of their time not just to comment, but to watch your fucking video and comment. You're not doing it. It's like if you're not commenting, you can't do this anymore. You're just not. You're not having fun. That's the whole purpose of this is to have fun, man. And I just wasn't having fun. But like, just the amount of people that that just commented and the interesting shit that happened, the conversations, the people I met. It was from like not day one. Obviously, you have to wait to build a subscriber base and all those kind of things. But a couple months ago, I still have my boy it's Turok. I've been calling it Turlo the whole time. His mother-in-law lives on the street. He sent me a bunch of beer. He hand delivered essentially a bunch of beer not too long ago. I had people reach out, over the past couple of months about sending out more beer mails that I had to kind of turn away. It was just crazy. Everything's crazy. Apparently, everything ends with me saying it was crazy. There's pretty good non-alcoholic pills right here. Green State Zero. Nice bitter. Definitely Czech pills style. Has a little bit of that bready kind of thing that you get with non-alcoholic beer. Some of them, I should say. But not like over. Anyway. So. Not that we're essentially running an oral history here at this point, but one of the coolest things was the whole tidal wave of the U.S. beer tuber kind of connection. From just meeting people in the United States, because I was hanging out a lot of the Canadian beer tubers virtually and sometimes physically, and meeting up with a couple beer tubers and all that kind of stuff. But it was really when the United States beer tubing, at least here in the Northeast, kind of took off that it really became super close knit for me. Like a lot of the Northeast beer tubers, and I say these names, if you watch my channel, you know who these people are. If they don't, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Go check them out. As from Joe from the Beer Patrol, he was part of the Canadian kind of circle of beer tubers, being from Buffalo, right on the corner of Canada. He ended up starting his own beer tube channel a couple years ago. I will say this: I say this in jest, but I don't say it. I say it in jest when it comes to me, but I'm saying everything else not in jest. So the king of beer tube, Lee Russell, he uninformally passed that mantle on to me at one point. I'm not the king of beer tube. Never want to be that. But if I were the king of beer tube, and if I had the ability to hand it off like King T'Chaka to, the next Black Panther, Joe from the Beer Patrol, he's the king of beer tube. He is. He is now, and he probably will be for quite some time. If you don't know who Joe from the Beer Patrol is, you need to check him out. He's genuinely one of the nicest dudes, one of the funniest dudes in the universe. And he's just he's articulate. He knows beer, but he doesn't take himself too seriously. He's just honestly, for bang for your buck, he's the best. He's the best. And like his beer tube channel has grown. I would say his beer tube channel has grown exponentially faster than I think anybody I've ever seen. That is taking in the account of the bell curve that is COVID and the downturn of the industry. Just to give you a little quick insight before I move on to the other people I met here in the East. There was a time when like I went from 1,000 subscribers to 5,000 subscribers in like a year, a couple of years. Like it would be, there would be, if I went a day without getting a bunch of subscribers, that was kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it, 365 times three, so you're like averaging three a day if you're doing 1,000 in 1 year. And I was doing more than that, and it was just, it was just growing and growing and growing. And once COVID hit, not so much when COVID hit, because I think actually subscribership stayed the course for quite a bit during that time because people had time to waste. And, as Mike from Darn's Beer Reviews, go check him out, said, like, a lot of people, started watching during COVID. And awesome to have that kind of outlet for people. But, it was just constant. And, for the past, I want to say 5 years, if I got one subscriber a day, I was like blown away. Blown away. Average one a day. We're talking, I've been at 9,000. I posted a 10,000 subscriber contest video months, maybe a year ago. And I was already at 9,900 plus subs, and I still haven't hit 10,000. To give you an idea, you know what I mean, of I haven't got 100 in 1 year. How little the growth is. Not the reason to stop the channel. Again, as long as people are enjoying it, I would do it. As long as I was doing it, or enjoying it, I would do it. The latter kind of put the kibosh on things. Anyway, what was I was spacing? Oh, going on Joe's rise to the king of beer tube. He's got what is he at now? What is Joe? I want to say. Yeah, 4,000, 4.5 thousand, almost 4.6 thousand subs. And that's, he hasn't been doing it that long. And to make that kind of headway, that kind of exponential growth in the extreme downturn of an industry, by far and none, grading on a curve, that man is God's gift. I see. I'm being serious. Like Joe's the man. Anyway, so just meeting Joe, knowing him from that, and have him come over. We met in real life a couple times on the Canadian side of things, and then have them, us all kind of orbit each other. Not by us. Another person I met before they started a channel, or right when they started the channel, was Kyle from No Hate Beer Reviews. He wasn't super far from me at the time. I was living in northeastern Pennsylvania. Scranton area, and he was living in the Binghamton area. So you're talking about 45 minutes, no brainer. We met up and hung out, had a couple beers. Just meeting Kyle again. If I'm going to talk about, the people that I want to watch when it comes to BeerTube, Kyle is one of them. One of the few, because I don't watch a ton of BeerTube. Yeah, fun fact. I've said that a bunch of times before, so it's not crazy. Anyway, he brought a cool perspective to beer tubing, in a sense that he was more clinical. And I don't mean like well, I think there's 3% the formaldehyde or any of that. Not like that. But he's a teacher. So as a teacher, you mold your brain to think in a specific way, and that's how he approached his beer reviews, a little bit more structured, a little bit less like goofy, for the lack of. And that Kyle's funny as hell, especially he got a couple beers and the dude is hilarious when he lets his guard down. Even when he doesn't let his guard down, he's funny. But Drunk Kyle is one of my favorite Kyles, and I don't like many Kyles. And sorry, Ryan from No Happy Reviews, not Kyle. Inside joke. Anyway, meeting him and then seeing him go through his beer reviews and do the things that he does and the way he does them. The Nerd Sense guys, Mike and Sean from Nerd Sense was, and again, same thing. I don't know if they're doing their channel yet, Nerd Sense. They might have been doing Nerd Sense, but it wasn't a beer channel when it first started. But we ended up, it had to be. I don't know why we would have had the conversation otherwise, but we ended up meeting up when I was up in Boston area. They're from Boston area or Massachusetts area. Ended up meeting up at Night Shift, and end up meeting these people. And you know, there's other people. You know, the FLX guys. You know what I mean? Like there was Keith, 93 Lumber. We were friends for years and years and years. Had a falling out. He doesn't like me anymore. Anyway, you know, doing beer stuff with him, running around, going crazy. And just my buddy George, he's done a couple channels, so we can name George on here. It wouldn't be a final video without George. George, Massive Troll Reviews. If you want to know who George is, just type on my channel Massive Troll Reviews. You'll see George doing his reviews. Basically, it consists of us acting like idiots and him chugging shit. Always a good time. You know, and just the other people from the U.S. You know what I mean? That I watched doing beer reviews. I mean, if we're gonna talk about the King of Beer Tube, if we're gonna do the whole like Dark Knight like thing, remember when he goes in a thing and then he's like trying to kill a boss, he kills him and there's henchmen left and he snaps the pool stick in half, throws it down and says, "There's a job opening." If we're gonna do that for the King of Beer Tube, it's Joe from the Beer Patrol versus Joe. It's Joe versus Joe from Joe's Arcade. Those are my two kings of beer tube when it comes to what the universe is right now when it comes to beer tube, and just meaning, you know, becoming friends with them. You know, Nate from Behind the Bar Beer Reviews, now he owns a brewery. He got out of here. Joe from the Beer Patrol, again, another beer reviewer. He was local to me in Northeast PA. He did it forever. He's been at every beer Tube Palooza, but he's got more important things like actually making beer as a professional brewery for decade plus now, and just meeting people up and down the East Coast, you know, from everybody, from East Coast Liquor to Bumpy to everybody that came to Beer Tube Palooza had hangs. You know, we would go to Beer Tube Palooza, like the first Beer Tube Palooza. Let's cut to that chase. So you know, I end up meeting all these people. Actually, you know what? Before we go on that, let's go over to the comments before we get too far. Let's see. I'm waiting too long. Oh, here's my buddy Vinny. Hey, brother, gonna miss insightful beer commentary. Hope to catch you in real life sometime soon. That's a cool story. We'll go on this tangent before we go on another tangent and then another tangent. So Vinny, we met when I was a teenager in the Poconos, and you know, over the course of a summer or two. He was friends of a friend kind of thing. And then not too long ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, ended up, you know, just kind of circle back. He's like, "Are you the Matt Dapkins that I know from Gouldsboro?" I was like, "Hell yeah, dude." He's like, "I live in Jersey. I love beer. You like beer. Let's hang." That's how we met. So, you know, we've been to a couple of beer festivals together, hung out in real life a bunch of times. And again, Vin, not going anywhere, brother. I'll be around. So you'll hear from me, whether you want to or not. Speaking of Mike and Sean, one of the greats, the digital areas won't be the same without you. Love you, dude. Love you too. I don't know if that's Sean or Mike, because I could see Mike actually writing that. It's Sean, by the way. D Hobbs joined late. But what's the next biggest driver for stepping away? There's not a singular. Well, my kid's my biggest driver for stepping away. Just to compartmentalize and just talk about the reasons. The reason I stopped doing Beer Tube is because it became not super fun. So as I talked in the previous video, it's not an original thought by me, but as you get older, you prune the tree of things you do in life. You know, all the things I did in my 20s, I didn't do in my 30s, and I didn't do in my 40s, and you know, so on and so forth. And you know, just finding more time to do stuff with my kid, you know, and being able to do stuff with my kid. Those are the two reasons why I'm stepping away. And that entails two things. One, if I don't do beer reviews, if I'm not going out to breweries, and if I'm not going out to buy beer, those are times I claw back to where I can hang out with my kid and my wife. I do not want to leave her out of this. She is omnipresent. When I should say family, more than my kid. So it's more to spend more time with my family. So that's the biggest one. And then with me being the guy that I am, deciding to go completely throw myself in an opposite direction, becoming a healthier person. So me being a geriatric parent, me just turning 50 in January, being able to not just be around my kid while he grows up, but interact, go on hikes, go on trips, play sports, do all those things. Just want to be a little bit healthier of a dude. And not drinking beer helps me accomplish that. Again, as I said earlier, if you skip that part, you you can be amazingly healthy and be a beer drinker. There's a ton of people that do it. I will point directly at Augie Carton. You know what I mean? If you want to see somebody that went from not super skinny, but opened a brewery and got a little chubby, you know, Augie wouldn't hate me saying this, and a lot chubby, and then decide, you know, dude owns a brewery. He's not going anywhere. Got to get healthy. That dude still drinks the best of them. I drank with him when I was down in Philly. You know, but he is a machine when it comes to, you know, bike riding, Peloton, the whole nine. So you can live that world. But for me, I decided to go in the opposite direction, which is just put it off to the side. Let's just be the healthiest version I can for a bit, see how that treats me, and see where the world takes me. Again, beer. Not alcoholic, but the alcoholic stuff probably not going to go away forever either. So that's the biggest driver. Love your this is from Mark O'Malley. Love the beer reviews, Matt. Been watching your content for years out of Seattle by the way of Wisconsin. Wish you the best, brother. Thank you very much, homie. Logan, every time you talk about barley wine, I think of the revolution when you had that made you want to turn off the camera and just go drink it. I want to smash everything in this room. I think it was VSOJ. Yeah, I remember we used to say fun shit like that. Now we're like, I like it. But yeah, I'd be like, I'm going to break everything. I love this so much. No, I remember that distinctly. So yeah. Dean, gonna miss your videos, Matt. Best of luck. Any stories of beef between beer tubers over the years? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's beer tubers. So I ain't breathing life into anybody's shit. But you know, let me put it this way. So there's people that just so there's people who want to be, how do I say this? When I talked about like when I would do stuff on YouTube, BeerTube, I always tried to carry myself as best as I could as a journalist and not a reporter, which is trying to have some kind of moral, ethical compass while being honest and not being phony. That was my core tenet. There's a lot of people who are phony. And there's a lot of people that do stuff just because they want to be, you know, they get the gratification of people commenting or reaching out or sending them beer. Not saying that stuff's not gratifying. You know, cool brewery sends me beer, that's pretty cool. Beer sends me beer, that's pretty cool, but it wasn't the driving force behind it. And to be so fixated on just being a personality. I got my window open. It's raining like crazy. I gotta make sure my laptop's not getting rained on. Sorry. Yeah, there's just people that are just, you know, herbs. Probably the best way I do it. Put it in, you know. Sometimes you gotta call people out in their bullshit. You know, I'm 99.9% of the time just, you know, I've always been of the mind to be like, whatever. You know, but there's been a couple times where I decided to speak my mind. And nothing has changed since I've spoken that mind. My thoughts haven't changed. Those people have changed. A lot of them have gone by the wayside. You know, one of the common tales you'll know if you watch a lot of BeerTube is people come and people go. I'm going. But it's usually a little bit different than what I did. I would put it that way. You know, 14 years I think is a good run. You know, I acknowledge my existence and I'm acknowledging my departure. You know, and, you know, a lot of people start a BeerTube channel. A lot of people would start a BeerTube channel and write me. And they would always ask the same question. maybe not worded the same, but it was almost always the same question, which was, how do you become popular in BeerTube? Which sometimes carried the small sidebar of how do you make money in BeerTube. So I would always answer the same way. I'm like, just do it for fun. Like, try to educate yourself, know what you're talking about to a certain extent. I'm like, like, know what you're talking about. Like, you don't want to be a complete idiot. I like it, I don't like it. Nothing wrong with that, but if have a little bit of vocabulary, have a little bit of knowledge, never hurts anything. But have fun doing it, man. Have fun, laugh at it, have fun with it, joke, do all the things you want to do because it's fun. It's supposed to be fun, and one of the reasons I'm stepping away is just because it's not nearly as fun. And just have fun with it, and don't try to make a living out of it because you're not going to make a living out of it. At my heyday, the most I ever made from one singular year in BeerTube, I think, was just under $3,000. That's an outlet. That was 1 year. There was this weird thing where YouTube sent me, said, "Oh, if you activate this thing in your channel, we'll just give you $500 or $1,000." I forget. It was a decent amount of money, and it wasn't anything crazy. Put a button in that. So one of the things you'll notice if you actually go, well, you won't notice because YouTube is YouTube. But I didn't actually activate monetization on my channel until extremely late. Like, I was in the thousands and thousands of subs before I hit the monetization button because YouTube forced me to. I always was like, commercials are dumb. I don't want to do that. We'll leave that comment up because we have to circle back and I'll remember then. It got to the point where, like, the only time you'll show commercials is if you click this button, and if you click this button, we'll pay you for the commercials. And then one day YouTube's like, hey, just so you know, if you don't turn on monetization, we're just going to run ads and you're not going to get any money. So we're turning on ads regardless. That's when I started monetizing because I'm like, well, I'm just not going to give them the money. You know what I mean? Like, okay. And then, ever since I did that, you know what I mean? You were talking probably, I don't remember when I monetized. It was probably 17, 18, something like that. So 5 years in, maybe, give or take. And then, the average I would average was between $1,000 to $2,000 a year, and that was probably for like a 3 to 4 year stretch. And then after that, like, I would say last year, I want to say I made $200, $300 on YouTube or something like that. With the same-ish amount of content, probably a video or two a week. There's a time when I was posting one video a day, if not more. Yeah, so, I'd be like, you're not going to get rich. The most I ever heard, and there's going to be exceptions to this, because I don't know what certain, I don't know what the crappier channel in the UK makes. There's some guy over in Europe somewhere that has over 1 million subs or whatever it may be. I don't know what they make, but I know, like, one of the more prominent beer tubers outside the United States makes like 16 grand a year, 16 to 20. Let's put it that way. I could be wrong, but again, if it's 30 even, I couldn't live on 30 grand a year. I couldn't. I would have an extremely hard time living on double that. So you're not going to make money doing this. So my thing was always like, just have fun with it. Have fun with it. Get what you can get out of it in the most positive way you can, which is friendship and connection, whether it be subscribers or people you meet or other people that do the same thing you do. And there's just some people that just don't subscribe to that. So you'd have a lot of people reach out to me, ask me that question, and then I would be like, just have fun with it. Don't read too much into it. It'll come, it'll come, it'll come. I'd be like, if you're good at it. Because the other thing I'd say is be yourself. Because if you're yourself and you're good at it and you're entertaining and people like what you say, it'll work. But some people just suck. You know what I mean? Not everybody's a professional athlete or a musician. They might have wanted to be, but they just didn't. They lacked the skill to do those things, And some people have the personality, some people don't, as much as they want to. So you see a lot of people start YouTube channels, and then a couple months go by, and it just stops, and you never hear from Then there's some people that stop because of health reasons. Some people pass away. Greg from Greg Beer Reviews, one of the more popular beer tube channels in the world, especially here in the States. He passed away. So, Terry from can't believe I'm forgetting Terry's YouTube channel and see UK Beer Review. Just type in Terry Beer Review. I'm gonna look it up because it's actually it's criminal for me not to remember the name of it. He passed away. There's a couple people have passed away, and could have been um, um, let's see. Beer Goggles. God, I couldn't remember his name. From Beer Goggles, he was one of the UK beer tubers, and we'll get to those guys in a sec. After all the other stuff I'm going to get to, um, you know, pass away, and then I don't know how many people have, then you have people that just disappear, at the peak, Beer Geek Nation, obviously, and other people have just decided to call it quits. Just one of them. So it's run its course for me because it's just stopped being fun. But there's some people that just, again, back to the core question about beef, there's just some people that just, you could just tell from their tone, the tenor, how they carry themselves, the things they choose to talk about, the things they have pivoted towards. It's not so much about like being a good person and cultivating good conversation about beer. It's more about, well, I'm going to use this as a medium for people to listen to me. Um, and that to me is just icky. So we'll put it that way. Those people that are disingenuous and just use it as a vehicle for their own id or ego or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, those people, they can get the gas face. So that's that. Um, Kevin, what's going on, homie? We'll miss your channel. Only subscribe to 4 beer channels, and yours was one. Good luck, and hope you make up here to the Western New York beer scene. Cheers. I will be up there, brother. I'll be up there. I appreciate you chiming in all the time, homie. Again, my Achilles heel for quite some time has been lacking comments, and you have been a constant. And I appreciate it, brother. I do. I very much do. Hi. Hey Kevin, I just met Joe Beer Patrol at my local brewed and bottled here in Lewiston. Joe's the man. I'm sure you had a blast because that dude's the fucking man. Mike B from B. Oh, Mike from B United. Thanks for everything you've done in past years. Always, thank you very much, Mike. B United, OEC. You guys, if you watch my channel, it's some of my favorite beers. One of my favorite breweries, and I'm not just saying it's because this is coming from Mike. This is years after I've been singing my praises of B United. I love their whole shtick, the crazy, maniacal, mad scientisty way they think about things up there. It's absolutely beautiful, and the B United is the importer of a lot of European beers here in the United States, a distributor, and then also a brewery. OEC is the brewery leg of it, and they just do awesome stuff. So, Mike, I appreciate you coming out, brother, and saying what's what. Alex saying, I enjoy doing beer reviews, Matt. I really do, and I'm very happy that I have a YouTube channel because it's awesome to meet people. That's the reason to do it, homie. So anyway, this we went on that tangent because we were going down to Beer Tube Palooza. So, met all these people from the United States. I didn't even finish this one first beer yet. I gotta get this sucker down. Anyway, actually, how do I turn my... Okay, sorry about that. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, Beer Tube Palooza. Um, that was like my favorite, probably. Well, outside of mystery beers, and we'll talk about mystery beers. They're probably tied for one A, one B. The two coolest things that I cultivated, probably the best way to put it, was I think is mystery beers and Beer Tube Palooza. So Beer Tube Palooza was just me going, hey, I have now met a bunch of semi-local people in the beer tubing community. I own a farm. I live in the middle of nowhere. I have the room. Let's have a get together. Let's have a get together. And I reached out to a group, mainly the group that I already mentioned about the U.S. guys, Joe from Beer Patrol, No Hype, Nerd Sense, yeah. Those guys, I was like, let's do Beer Tube Palooza. All of us meet together, hang out for a weekend, and just get, drink beers, do reviews, and have a blast. And it was awesome. First year was crazy. It was Joe from the Beer Patrol, Keith from 93 Lumber, the Nerd Sense guys, Joe from the Beer Patrol, and Kyle from the Hype Beer Reviews. And we did a podcast during that one. You can check it out on the channel if you just type in Beer Tube Palooza. You get a bunch of hits, but that's the one will be like an hour plus long. And we had a blast. I had it all planned out, beautiful. Let's do it. In, I think it was August, maybe. Yeah, it had to be like late summer because Kyle's a teacher, so it was like, oh, let's do it late summer. And I had everything all super planned out. Guys are coming. It's like the hottest day I think we've had here, where I live since I've lived here. It was, the real field temperature was like 118 or something like that. It was like 100 plus degrees out. So I was like, we cannot do this. We cannot do this outside. I'm like, we have to do it inside. So we all crammed into my basement and had an absolute blast. And it was so fun that it was just like, yeah, we're doing this again. I think that was the year before COVID. I think we skipped the year because of COVID. And anyway, and then the second year, we actually end up having, again here at my farm, that we had outside. At that one, we end up having the FLX guys came down. Mike Bernardo came down. Steven from Connecticut came down. Actually, I'll go get the picture on the wall. Yeah, we had a blast. That's actually the picture from that second Beer Tube Palooza. So all of us hanging out on the farm, having a blast. We drank a bunch of beers. I did my classic Irish goodbye. For those that don't know, I'm the king of Irish goodbyes. It's a running joke within the beer tubing community, more specifically the Beer Tube Palooza community, that I basically drink when we would have like a night, like a night. We're all reviewing beers for 10 hours, 2 days in a row. So you get what I'm talking about. When I'm done drinking, I'm done. I'm just like, I'm just done. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I go to bed. There's no goodbyes. I'm defining what an Irish goodbye is, but there's nothing. I just go. I did it here at my own farm. I was just like, I'm going to bed. You all have your own accommodations. Go to them. That was my shtick. And yeah, we had a blast. We had all kinds of fun, even more debauchery to be had. But after that, I just couldn't do it anymore. If it kept getting bigger, I don't know if I could have that many people on the farm. Plus, I just had Mike and my son, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to have this with my kid and around here. If he, whatever. Anyway, so I decided to just throw it out there in the universe. To, hey, if you want to do it, you do it, and hold it in your own space. So the first year we did that, we actually went to Albany, New York. That was the third Beer Tube Palooza. We went to Albany, so it was hosted by Kyle from Holy Beer Reviews. I ended up doing 2 podcasts on that trip. One with Plan B Brewery, which I've never posted. I'm actually going to post that because I actually just found the SD card and managed to, I believe I saved that audio. That's the reason why it never got posted. I lost that audio, but I think I might have salvaged it. I forgot my recorder. This is all my fault. But I forgot my recorder has a secondary backup recording. and actually records tube recordings. And I don't know what it was. I was going through a bunch of files on SD cards just to audit them and see what I could get rid of. And I was like, wait, what is this? I'm like, what's this other folder? And I was like, oh shit. So I might post that one. A little too late, but it'll get done. And Fidens, that one I posted. Fidens, and then ended up meeting a bunch of people up in Albany. It was such a cool trip. There was even more people at that beer, Tube Palooza. All the same people there. That was at the second one, minus Mike Bernardo. But then there was like Bumpy, and then East Coast Liquor, and then we even like I met somebody. There's an awesome bottle shop, tap room called Delaware Supply in Albany. If you ever go to Albany, go there. Bumped into a guy there. He's like, I love the channel, love the. And I was like, come back, man, hang out with us. So strangers coming back, hanging. So we had a blast. That was a great weekend. And actually, that was like a super long weekend. Actually, on my way up, I ended up spending the evening with my buddy Ben that I talked about previously, that I met through BeerTube. And it just, I was like, man, this is the best. This is the best. BeerTube was the best. The fourth year was in Connecticut. I said that because what movie was I watching the other day that made that joke? Oh, I was watching King and Queens. So it was in Connecticut at Steven's house. Again, more people show up, more breweries, more beer, more craziness, more of everything everywhere all the time. I ended up going to Fox Farm, ended up hitting a bunch of breweries, went to OEC for the first time, Be United, had an absolute blast of a time. And then the last one we did was Philly, which was honestly might have been one of my favorite. I did not Irish goodbye that one, I believe. I actually didn't really drink a ton during that one. Maybe that should have been like a little bit of clue that it was running its course for me a little bit. And then, yeah, it was just the coolest time for beer tubing for me. Just because having that, community of people and be able to interact with people and exist in that world. And that was it. Like, we didn't do it this past year or last year. We talked about it a bunch of times. Just no one took up the cause and the mantle to hold it. And I know, a couple people, like, I don't care at this point. People want to use the name Beer Tube Blues. I don't give a shit. But there's other get-togethers go on. Not saying they happen because of Beer Tube Palooza, but it's one of those things where it's just that was again another little kind of tick in the box. Go, no, maybe it's run its course for you. Because if I was really that enamored by the effort, not the hangs. If someone does Beer Tube Palooza and I click my fingers and I'm there. I'm still going. But it's just one of those things where I was just like, is what it is. So that ended up being like one of the coolest like formative things, because it just being in this influx of new ideas and new people and new minds and meeting random different people and all that kind of stuff. It's just such a cool experience. Such a cool experience. I'm gonna miss that. But like I said, if someone holds the one, I'm still gonna go. But it's just, oh man, it was such a good time. And the other thing I talked about, which was the mystery beers. Mystery beers to me is like kind of like the coolest thing. I say this with a little bit of an asterisk because it's not the coolest thing. It's one of the coolest things I think I've done in my life. And I know that sounds kind of sad to a certain extent. But it's the idea that it has legs and longevity is what's cool about it. So for those that don't know, like mystery beers are basically, it's probably what I deem as the most objective way to talk about beer. Drinking beer that you didn't know what it was. I didn't invent that. That been around. It's called blind beers. That is a thing. It's a completely different thing. There's a Venn diagram to it. But the thing that always irks me about blind beers is that's my non-beer, by the way. The blind beers, the thing that always irked me about blind beers is people would have an educated guess on what they were drinking, almost certain. Because 9 times out of 10, or probably more like 99 times out of 10, 100, if you're doing blind beers, it's a set of beers that you kind of have an idea of what you're getting into. You know, whether it's, IPA versus IPA, Trappist versus Trappist, whatever it may be. More specifically, almost more often than not, somebody else in your friend circle or your universe would lay the beers out for you, in the sense that, like, okay, I want you to pick 4 beers out of my fridge, put them out, and I'll try to guess them. Or they'd have some idea where those beers came from, you know. So if let's say I had a fridge full of 100 beers, and I say pick 4 beers out of that fridge. I never had more than 100 individual beers in my fridge, but like unique individual beers. But let's say you did that, you have like not 1 in 25, but you have a 1 in what, I don't know what the percentage would be, like 1 in whatever chance of guessing what that is, because you have a limited sample size to choose from. Unless someone you didn't know brought beers from the outside of the world and then parked them in front of you and you had no clue what's going on. And that's kind of where that came from. It originally started with a friend of mine who gave us homebrew. Me and my buddy Joe, our buddy gave us some beer, beer wrapped up, obscured. And he's like, here you go. I want you guys to review this and guess what it is. We ended up guessing it, only because it was a little bit of that sample size, because we ended up brewing a beer a year prior with this guy. So we're like, we think this is the beer that we're reviewing. Lo and behold, that's what it was. But I was like, wait, I like that. I like that I had no clue whatsoever what this could possibly be. So Keith from 93 Lumber, the time, it's during the heyday of like chasing hazies. So we were talking probably 2016, 15, 16, give or take. Anyway, he was like, "Oh man, I really want to have a bunch of beers for you. I want to give you a bunch of beers." And I said, "Don't give them to me. Like, wrap them up so you can't. So I can't. I have no idea what they are. I'm like, I want to review them and not know at all what they are." And that was mystery beers for me. That was that. And it kind of snowballed from there. Keith did that a couple times. And then when that kind of took off, I had a couple of other friends that were like, I like this. I'm going to do that to you. And then subscribers are like, I want to send you mystery beers. And it ended up becoming a thing. And, when did I do my first mystery beer? That'd be interesting. I didn't even look that up. Let's see. I don't even know when I posted my first mystery beer. Good God. I don't know why my internet's not working right now. I'm going to have to scroll back a long way. Mystery Beer Monday. I saw Logan. I'll click on it a bit. But, man, every Monday I used to mystery beer for years. Years. God. Still scrolling. So to give you an idea, I'm at like 4,500 beer reviews, I think I'm at. I started doing mystery beers. The one that our friend gave us was 10 years ago. And then I started doing mystery beers 9 years ago. 9 years ago. Mystery Beer around 3, and then Mystery Beer Monday startup. Oh man, God, craziness. So it was like one of those things where it was like, people dug it. You know what I mean? Let's go to the comments. We'll get through them, and then we'll come back to mystery beers. Let's see, where did I leave off? Nick, chime in. If you had to own your own brewery, what would you call it? I have no idea. If I had a brewery What would I call it? Probably at this point, I'd probably just call it like Beer Massive for massive beers or something along those lines, just because of this. I do have one beer name though. So again, tangents. These are tangents on tangents. I'm gonna cap this probably at 2 hours, so we have another half an hour to go, just so you guys know. Um, I've always wanted to make a beer with a brewery and have my name on it. And by that I mean like I helped them make the brewery, not the beer, not the name of the actual beer. I want to name it too, and that's what we're getting to, but I've never got to do that. So maybe someday that'll actually happen. And it's such a deep cut, cheesy beer name. No one would get it, but I don't give a F. And it would have to be a hazy IPA because the joke around hazy IPA that was a joke for many, many, many years. People still tell it, but is that hazy IPAs are ugly. Ugly. It's just ugly beer because it wasn't clear. And clear beers. I gotta get a hazy IPA for this. Oh yeah. Bear with me. Um, so it had to be a hazy IPA, and I wanted to call it "Ugly Cans of Mostly Water." I want to name a beer. I want to name a hazy IPA "Ugly Cans of Mostly Water." So bad, it like burns inside my soul. Now, I right now what I want to do is go. And if anybody can guess that right now, I'll give you something. But unless you've heard me talk about it before, which I only think was like once on another stream, no one's gonna get it. It comes from so in 1988. This is how dumb this is. Um, Star Trek Next Generation, which is this is my two farewell videos are named after the finale of Star Trek Next Generation. That's how much I love it. It's called, All Good Things. All good things must come to an end, and that was the name of their last episode. In their first season, the 18th episode was called Home Soil, and basically they try to terraform. For those that don't know what terraforming means, it means take a dead planet and make it livable. And they were trying to terraform the planet, and there was actually living beings in the soil, and they didn't know about it. Anyway, those living beings eventually kind of take them hostage and somehow communicate, and they call humans ugly bags of mostly water because that's what humans are, and we're just a bag of mostly water, and we're ugly. So that always made me laugh, like to no end. Ugly bags of mostly water. So I always wanted to make a hazy IPA with a brewery and call it Ugly Cans of Mostly Water. Anyway, so that would be my naming thing if I ever got to name anything. Playtime says, "Did you ever meet Greg from Greg's Beer Reviews? Sending love from New Hampshire, Vermont." I never did. You know, I don't know. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if Greg ever met anybody. Like I don't. I wasn't a huge fan of his channel. I'm not gonna sit here and wax poetic about my love for Greg. I didn't hate Greg by any stretch of the imagination, but the way he went about beer reviews and the way he did it, it was just not my cup of tea. Not yucking anybody else's yum, and I'm not speaking ill of the dead. But I respected what he did. It was his lane. He stuck to it, and he was widely beloved. And like, I get it. You know what I mean? But we were never like we didn't communicate that much. Random message here and there. Outside of that, nothing really. But I don't think again I didn't. That's to me preface. I didn't really watch his channel. I don't know if Greg ever really did go out and meet anybody. I hope he did. If he did, chime in. Let's see, Bill. Really gonna miss these hangs, Matt. Thanks for all the fun. Gonna miss you. Mystery Beer Monday ruled. That's right, they did. It was genuine reaction you gave, no matter if you were close or not. Yeah, I was always close. I was like, I'd always be able to spin it in a way that I was like, yeah, I wasn't that far off. And then I would go, yeah, I was waiting for him. Checking in with you, Matt. First off, thanks for the years on the beertainment. You're definitely Mount Rushmore set us up beer tubers. Thank you very much, Rob. Jersey brethren. Um, Probably my favorite mystery beer that I sent you was from Top and Goliath. It was DDH Pseudo Sue. Your reaction was how you wanted to punch people in the face for how impactful that beer was, sub 6%. Oh man, I think I still want to punch people in the face over that. Speaking, let's get this hazy in. More NA beer for y'all. Give it a pour. Tis a hazy, not alcohol, but hazy nonetheless. Let's see what else we got here. Comment wise, Rob. Second, do you think the state of beer? Why do you think the state of beer is where it is? Breweries are closing left and right in Texas, especially. I confused. Sorry, Rob. I confused you with a different Rob. When I said Jersey brethren, especially Houston. Grocery and liquor store beer sections are getting smaller. It's just supply and demand, man. You know, try to keep this as small as possible. Me wanting to keep this under 2 hours. Um, it's a combination of a bunch of different things. Prices of stuff going up doesn't help. Listen, Treehouse has 40 locations. Other Half has 40 locations. Huber Robot has 40 locations. Fiden's is building a $13 million brewery. Another one. They just built one 2 years ago. Making good beer, that's a thing. And you can crush it in the beer industry now. But there's no room for bad beer, man. And there was a ton of it pre-COVID. There was a point where you could open up a brewery and make shit beer and just make money hand over MFing fist. Like crazy. You can't do that now. Less people are drinking. It's shocking the amount of young people who are not drinking. Like it's crazy. I forgot what the figure was. If I could look it up real quick. It's something I forget. It's like billions of dollars less a year. So it's down 22%. Drinking as a whole is down 22% just from 2 decades previously. Yeah, I mean that's probably the best way I could put it. You know what I mean? Like just less people are drinking. That a lot more health conscious. And honestly, weed definitely helps, man. Weed and edibles and THC drinks. You can partake in the same fashion, minus the egregious health effects that can happen with overconsumption of alcohol and little to no hangover. You know what I mean? So, you throw those combinations in, the state of the economy, the way it's been over, since what the Trump administration has done, both their terms, combined with being sandwiched between a pandemic, you know, that, him and the way he runs the country, just driving, you know what I mean? Costs up in the stratosphere of everything across the board. Not that the pandemic didn't help, but it's just insane. So people have less money, less inclination. Um, there are less good breweries. There are less breweries, I should say that. There's still a lot of great, amazing breweries, but there's a lot of less ones. But it's also, I think there was a race to the top. There was a lot of breweries wanted to become that middle tier. There used to be two tiers. There was macro and micro. Then there was like three tiers. There was micro, macro, and whatever was in between. Your Sierra Nevadas of the world, those Bells of the world, those level of breweries. And a lot of breweries wanted to become those level of breweries. Now it seems like there's essentially four. Macro's its own thing, but now it's like there's almost like three people. There's small local breweries, there's that middle semi-large brewery, and then there's the Sierra Nevadas of the world. So now, you have your local tap room, which I think is going to be, what you're going to see now. The places that open now are servicing their local clientele, having people come from around to go to them, but then it's not like they're working on widespread distribution in order to keep their lights on. They know their lane, they want to be in their lane, and they want to stay in their lane. And you have those, I won't say middle of the road brewery, but probably four, because then there's larger regional breweries. Like for us, I would say, by me, other half, Cane to a certain extent. There's breweries that spread out into the area, that but are still craft. And there's that third kind of larger tier, the Treehouse. Nah, the other half would fall into that too. Treehouse, other half of the world. The Cane would probably be below that, and then there's still that Sierra Nevada. So it's just a combination of a bunch of different things. It's just not one singular thing that causes it to go on. Look at me. I'm a guy who talked about beer on YouTube for 14 years and stopped drinking beer. Third, what breweries would absolutely blow your mind if they couldn't weather the storm and had to close down? One of the best breweries in Houston, True Anomaly, recently closed, and I was straight up blown away. Oh man. I mean, a lot of the breweries I just mentioned, if they went away, like Sierra Nevada went away, that'd be crazy. But hey, Anchor went away. It can't happen. But Firestone Walker, they're too smart. Their portfolio is so wide, and I think they're just too respected, both in and out of the industry. Other half and Treehouse come to mind. Like, I don't know what it would take for other half or Treehouse to really crumble at this point. Again, they know their lane. Treehouse is, you come to our brewery, our spots are great, everything is top notch, like super high end. And when you have an eye for detail and a high eye for quality, it shows. And that is not just as a beer tuber. That's not just as a brewer. That's not just as a musician. As a manufacturer. Listen, I've been in manufacturing. I worked at a tattoo studio for 18 years. When I left, I decided to start a new job. Didn't know where. I had my skills in graphic design and marketing. Ended up going to a manufacturer, that I was grateful for that job quite a bit. But the longer I was there, I realized it just was not a great place to be. Management was horrible. The facilities were extremely, extremely bad. They got a little bit better with the move, but it was just everything was thought about in a sense that, it's like, well, we have to do this or we have to do that in order to comply with safety, OSHA, like quality, like the whole thing was just like no fly by seat of your pants. We do what we do. We just get the job done. Where I work now as a manufacturer, and everything there is top notch, top notch. No, I'm not gonna say no expenses spared, but if it costs money to make an extremely high end ethical product, that's the company I work for right now. That's what they're going to do. And to live in those two environments and have them be the same thing, because they're both manufacturers, quite a bit different industries, but to see that it shines through from beginning to end product, from working there to see the things that go onto the shelves. And the same thing happens with breweries. That's why Other Half, that's why Human Robot, that's why these breweries that expand and look impervious to the downturn of the economy, to the downturn of the beer drinker, to those kind of things. you know um those are the ones that are smart enough to diversify their portfolios and to have a structure in place that it really would take a monumental cataclysmic event for them to shut their doors. So let's boil it down to this. Do you make good stuff? Are you a good business? The ones that fail, not saying good people that make good things don't fail. There's breweries I know that are teetering, and they're some of my favorite breweries in the world. Um, and they're holding on, but it's because they're like my channel. Because if I ran my channel a different way, if I said things differently, if I catered to a little bit more marketing and self promotion, I could be much bigger, make much more money. I chose not to do that. But this isn't my living. That's their living. So that's the thing. It's a combination of business sense, who you want to be as a business, on top of the business sense, and then if you make a good product. And a lot of the breweries that have closed, and New Jersey is no exception to what you have happen over there in Texas. Yeah, it can happen, and it will. Civil Life is still making great beer. If you ever visit Jason's another one. Civil Life is one of my favorite breweries on earth, and I will make it out there. When and if I make it out there, Jason, you will be on speed dial. Hey, Matt, I hope one day you have a beer with you. We will make that happen, Alex. I certainly understand Japanese craft beer. What's going on, homie? I certainly understand how all this can become overwhelming, keep you from other things you want to do. Best of luck to you. Cheers to you out there. Dino, chiming in, sad to see you go. Love your style and enthusiasm for beer stuff. If you're ever in Allendale, Australia anytime soon, I'd love to have a beer with you, mate. So long, and as always, cheers. Cheers, Dino. Logan. Rev down here currently does the THC seltzer. I ain't hating on that stuff, man. You do you. I don't mind a little bit of that. Go to the experience. Got to experience Treehouse in their Charlton location. Was blown away at the place and how they ran it. Quality for merch, restrooms, beer would blow my mind if they failed. And that's the thing. I mean, it kind of you just echoed, what I just said, and it's not a unique thought to me. And that it's, the operation is so tight, that it'd be crazy if they went away. So we left off of Beer Tube Palooza. I can't go without leaving. I'm leaving this second, but I can't go without mentioning the North American beer tubers, which I've become friends with too, man. That's the other part of the community that I loved. I call them, it's so funny, I was going to call them expats. That's not true. They would have to be ex-US is what I call them, just because of the business I'm in. No, anything we do outside of the United States, we call it ex-US. Some of my favorite beer tubers to watch were actually UK beer tubers. My favorite UK beer tuber, if I'm going to crown a king of UK beer tube, is Rob from Hopsing. He doesn't post a lot anymore. It's a bummer because he's really good at what he does. He's a fantastic gentleman and one of my favorite beer tubers. And hanging on his live streams, and hanging in with that group over there, the UK guys from Harry to Craig to like everybody over there, Adam, everybody is so fucking funny and so fun. And just to hang over in the perspective I have, the amount of US beers they get over there is insane. To see them wax poetic or shit all over US beers is always a secret little pleasure of mine. And some of them more insightful. I would say UK beer tubers get a little bit more in depth, a little bit more surprise, a little bit more sort I'm looking for, a little bit more judicious with their adjectives when it comes to beer. Some of the best ones, and watch them review stuff that I've reviewed, or send some beer mails back and forth. Send some beer mails over there, send some mystery beers when I sent those off. So I'll go back to the mystery beer thing because that's where I left off before I forget. And then did the mystery beers for a long time, and then one day I decided, because no one was doing them. Well, I shouldn't say no one. But 99.9% of people weren't doing them because they didn't want to be like, oh, I don't want to steal this chick, because that's kind of like the nice thing to do and the proper thing to do. But that bummed me out. So one day I said, screw it. I put a package together, a bunch of beer tubers. I believe one was Joe from the Beer Patrol, No Hype, Nerd Sense, Joe from Joe's Arcade, and I think Rob from Hobzine maybe were the four mystery beers, I believe, that I sent off. And it wasn't so much I was curious to see how they would do, but it was more of like I don't want this to be my thing. I don't want to do a channel update and be like, hey, I think other people should do mystery beer because I think that's a little pretentious. So I was just like, fuck it. I was like, I'm just gonna send out a bunch of mystery beers, and I think that gives the thumbs up to everybody else. And now it's the thing. Now it's the thing, and that goes back. I'm glad I kind of circled back on that because I forgot to finish my point on the mystery beers. Is that that's by far and away one of the coolest things I see? Because honestly, right now, I don't remember last time I did a mystery beer. Actually, it might have been the one that Cam was talking about. From was it him or was it who's talking about that? Yes, it was Cam. Talking about mystery beers. Might have been one of the last ones that I've done. Anyway, and just get it out there in the world so other people do it. Now it's like a thing. Now I don't even do them, but if I every now and then I'll be curious. I'll like type in mystery beer just to see people from all around the globe. Do you know what I mean? Doing the same exact thing. The wrapped. For those, I didn't even define this. If you don't know what this is at this point, I don't know why you're listening, but it's basically person has to wrap the beer to where there's no way you can see what it is. Bottle, can, whatever, obscure everything about it to where it's like, other than when you pour it, there's literally nothing you can guess about the beer. Do you know what I mean? Other than it's in a bottle or can. And then drink it, talk about it, guess what kind of beer, ABV, maybe hops, or whatever you do. And every now and then try to guess the actual beer. That's the shtick. And then actually throw that out there and be able to like see people take that and turn it into a thing. There's a guy on Instagram I found like less than a year ago. It's like that's his whole channel. It's all he does is mystery beers. And I'm like, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like to see someone take that idea and then actually have it become like a staple is such a bizarre thing to just mind blowing. Just absolutely whatever. Anyway, we're done with the mystery beer part of the show. Do them. They're fun. I love them. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. I forget what I was talking about. Oh, UK beer guys. So just hanging with all those guys, and then all the non-UK Euro guys. You know, Thomas, who stopped his channel not too long ago, paused his channel, I should say. Not saying he's not going to come back. He just paused his channel a couple months ago. Thomas Open Beer Reviews, from Douglas Beer Reviews to Carbon, from I know everybody's name. I just don't know their beer channel's name. The Dutch Beer Reviews, to like, God, I don't even know. Everybody. Oh, I forgot about Peter from Master Hoppers. Didn't really talk about him. He would be the other person. If we're gonna do like the pool stick on the ground and you have to fight it out for the King of Beer Tube, it's Peter from Master Hop. It's Joe from the Beer Patrol and Joe from Joe's Arcade. So, unfortunately, Peter, you have to change your name to Joe now. And you know what? I will give Peter mad props for a couple of different reasons. One, because I would consider him an OG. There's people that did it before him. There'll people do it after him. But I'll consider him one of the OGs. And, he came and did the podcast once, and super cool dude. And I enjoyed our conversations off recording as much as on. But he, learned how to open a brewery on his own. Still does a channel. That is fucking awesome. There's people who've done beer, Ryan from Behind the Bar Beer Reviews, he owned his own brewer. I'm done with the channel. There's I forget the name of the gentleman. There's a gentleman up in New England who is like a beer reviewer and he got a job at a brewery and he's like, oh, stop on the channel. I know my buddy Joe, Nanny Peter Beer Reviews, going to be a brewer, stop on the channel. That I think is pretty darn cool that Peter would like work his way up in the industry to actually be part of a brewery, own a brewery, and be like, not just keep doing it, but be like, yeah, I'm posting a video saying I'm not doing this, stopping this stuff. So there you go. Which is and he's one of the best in general. But he's kind of compartmentalizes a lot of what I talk about, what I look for in a beer tuber, and what I find as positive in a beer tuber, which is enthusiasm, good at what he does, understand, knowledgeable, can speak, but there's not once did I ever watch a beer review from Peter and go, I think he's sugarcoating this a little bit, or you know what I mean, or I think he's bad mouthing this beer. I don't know. It just seems a little disingenuous. Like I've never once thought that in 1 second of any video he's ever created, which is one of the reasons why I'd put him up there. Are we gonna have a Mount Rushmore of Kings of Beer Tube? Is that what we're working towards here now? But yeah, him and that and is kind of the polar opposite of what I talked about when there's people that just do it just to hear themselves talk. Anyway, so back to the Euro guys, even the Euro guys, just doing online hangs with those guys. But then there's, the future, again, the future of those hangs aren't gone. If I pop on and I see someone doing a live stream, I might pop on. I know Adam from the UK. I wouldn't really call him a beer tuber, but he's on all the live streams. He sent me beer before. He's coming over to the States. We are hanging when he comes over to the States. And we're drinking a beer. Those kind of things. Just all the people you meet. We had someone from Japan just comment on here. We had people from all over the world. We had someone comment on here from Australia. The amount of people that just exist in the world and the people you meet is insane. Back to the comments. Oh man. Okay. As other mentioned, you ever in Houston, hit me up. Hang for lunch and a beer. 100%. 100%. Alex, thank you, man. Appreciate it, buddy. By the way, Finback, that's a good brewery as well. They make good, delicious beers. I was bummed. I'll tell you my Finback story real quick. Very short story, because we're coming up on 2 hours. Finback, I've never been. I've never been to Finback. Now it's supposed to go there in January. Not that I won't go back, but I was like, I finally get to go to Finback, and it was a weekend. We had a crazy snowstorm, and it was a friend of mine we're having a surprise birthday party for him, and I was just like, it was like 12 minutes away from where I was staying. I was like, we go to Finback. Never got bummed. Love Finback. Love their beers. A little pricey though. Mike asking for a friend. Do you think hazy IPAs will ever die? No. Why would they? When something awesome exists, why do we want it to die? I mean, unless something comes out that it's made with like, I was gonna say something really inappropriate, but something horrible, like puppy DNA or something. That's probably the most G-rated way I could say what I was gonna say. Yeah, I don't see why it would go away. They're delicious. They're fantastic. It exists, and I don't see it ever dying. I don't think so, but you never know. Maybe alcohol goes away forever. I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Buzzy, Benny saying what up from Chicago. Thank you for reviewing Scrimshaw for me. You've been very entertaining years. One of the best too. Thank you very much, Buzzin'. And I love me some goddamn Scrimshaw. North Coast, I love you. Mike Dolan, can we teach a class on how to pour a beer? Can we please start putting heads on our beer again? 2 fingers at least. I will say 2 things about this, Mike. One, can we, not me, but we as a whole, teach a class on how to pour a beer? Yes, we can. 2, I am not the one to teach that class. I am horrible at pouring beer. So take that for what it's worth. Is Arsenal finally going to get over the line with a win and win the league already? As much as it pains me to say that, but I am tired of watching City win. Also, Spurs potentially going down wild. They're going to. Arsenal's good. This weekend was no good. The past month has been no good, but he's still top of the league. Sure, game in hand, 6-point lead. City this weekend. If Arsenal take any points away from City, I think it's kind of really, really close. Like I'm never saying a given, but if we take any points from City, I think we're good. If we lose, I think we still win. And I say we are one of those people. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm excited. I'm very excited. Obviously, wearing it. Koa Brewing chiming in saying thanks for all the great content and quality takes. Being a West Coast guy, I've only tuned in periodically, but always been stoked when I see you review a beer I'm searching for. Well, thanks for tuning in, homie. Hey man, hope all is well. You're invited to the trip in Maine if you have time in September. Cheers, man. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it. If you want to go check out East Coast, I implore you to do so. Alex, tell the truth, man. I hope to get down to the Finback Brewery and his. Matter of fact, I hope to one day go there myself. Cheers, my friend. Cheers. The Airbnb is a cabin with 3 buildings that hold 14 guests, 10 beds. Oh, hot damn. So there you go. That's quite the get together. I might have to earmark that for the future. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, like I said, I wrote down a couple things here. I had a couple ideas on this chat. I was like, yeah, maybe we'll watch my first beer review and laugh at it, but we're not going to do that now. We're at 2 hours now on the live stream. It's hard, dude. You know? It's 14 years, man. It's a long time to do something. But, like, it's the best way I can compartmentalize it. And get angry at this quote if you want. Is, I am an unabashed Marvel Cinematic Universe fan. Like, I really, starting from Iron Man up until Endgame, it really is one of my favorite series of movies. I'm not saying they're the best movies ever made, but from an entertainment standpoint, to the environment they put you in, to the things, the fan service, the whole nine, I really do enjoy it. And I'm not a comic book nerd. It's not like there's some kind of, maybe it's the opposite. Some super comic book nerds probably hate them, but I really do enjoy them, and I watch them periodically. Like the series, I'll start with Iron Man and go through Endgame. And I'm actually doing that right now. But I'm doing it in a different way. I'm doing it because after I quit drinking, I was like, I would skip a bunch of MCU movies. Ones that I was like, I don't need to watch that. I don't need to watch that. Captain Marvel, stuff like that. Just, it was Iron Man. It was basically, I liked, some Thor, some Guardians, and it was basically Iron Man, Captain America, and Avengers was the bulk of it, and Spider-Man. And but I watched a bunch of them. But anyway, I watched, and I think it gets a bad rap, but I watched Age of Ultron the other day, and that's when Vision is born in that one, and to get to what I'm trying to say is that at the end of it, he kills the main protagonist in the movie. And the last line he says, or this one of the last lines he says, is something is not beautiful because it lasts. And that's probably the best way I could kind of put a bookend on all this. You know what I mean? Is that just because it's awesome doesn't mean it needs to last. And another thing, I listened to a thing today and driving Micah to gymnastics. I listened to a YouTube video about the 10 craziest things about, or 15 craziest facts about Seinfeld or whatever. And one of the, it's not a crazy fact being a huge Seinfeld thing, but they went out on top. When Seinfeld stopped running, they offered the whole crew was like something like $750 million for them to stay. It was like, I think, or something, not 750, but maybe like $250 million. It's like just 120 million alone or something like that. They offered Jerry Seinfeld to make another season, and he didn't want to do it because he was like, yeah, I want people to remember us at the top. I'm not saying I'm at the top of anything, but it's just, it's nice to it's nice to choose when you go out on your own terms. Again, preface, I'm not, who knows, maybe a year, maybe 10 years, I don't know. Yeah, come back and do something. I don't know. It's not the end of beer for me. It's not the end of me for me. But it's just nice to go out in your own terms. It's nice to go out and say, I started it. I finished it. Here we go. But it is very, very, very bittersweet. You know what I mean? It's you know, it's a large portion of my life. And if you go back and rewatch this, or you watch this whole time, all those experiences, you know, from, you know, the people that I've met, both virtually and digitally, the people that have watched me and written me over the years. There's people that have emailed me and texted me and called me and commented over the past week has been insane. Brewers and yeah, just craziness. You know, in the access and involved in the industry and you know what I mean, like the 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 things you create and the picture blues and the mystery beers and like these things that you put out there in the universe and know they're going to be, while the earth revolves and YouTube exists, you're going to be an echo in the universe. It's such a cool thing, but it's very, 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 very bittersweet. And that's it. You know, that's it. That's it. It's just one of those things where I loved every second of it, and I love meeting all you guys, gals, everything in between. I love the arguments, love the hate, loved speaking my mind, taking a stance. Love the in-depth stuff we did with the introspectives we did, the long-form stuff. Love the podcast. Love the sidebar conversations that I had, and the tell-all. When Beer Tube becomes something gigantic, and I get to write some kind of weird little memoir that 5 people will read and talk about the shit that people have talked on people. And the shit people have made fun of, and the shit people have said. Oh, you're all going down in one big flame of... No, I'm joking. No, I'm a vault. Seinfeld. But yeah, it's been such a cool ride. Love y'all. I really do. I really do. I really do. And I don't use that word. I don't use that just interchangeably. You know, so I don't love y'all. There's some of you I'm not a big fan of, but y'all, in a quotes as in general, love y'all. Love you for the love you for the interactions, love you for everything. Um, um, we're gonna read some comments. And I'm gonna hit end stream. That's how this is gonna work. Because otherwise, I'm just gonna keep going and going and going. Alex, a legendary Tanner. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Alex Tanner. To lose for me as a United fan, now supporting. Congrats you. Think of how thrilled you'll be to turn all this off. Easy, a peaceful rest. Enjoy. Not easy. Don't worry, I'll tune back in when you and your son have your first beer or NA together. It's going to be an old stock. Saving one of those old stocks. Ralph! I thought I would have missed tonight, but I'm glad at least I got to show up for the last 5 seconds. It's been a journey, man. Ralph, I love you, brother. I hope you're doing really well. It's been too long. Can we get one last smell of the glass? How's that? Does that work for you? That's it. We're done. So, thanks again for a ride, Matt. Cheers. Last comment, if you chime in after this, you're not getting put on a screen. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys, yeah. Hope you're enjoying a good beer. Oh. I'm not going to rank anybody. These are the BeerTube channels you need to check out. Douglas, beer reviews from Netherlands, Long Durban. Thomas is open if he comes back. You need to check out Jesus Christ, Craig over at Can't Be Reviews, Rob at Hobzine, and Joe Master Hoppets, Peter. If you don't subscribe to him, that's weird. Um, Joe from Joe's Arcade, No Hype Beer Reviews, Kyle, Nerd Sense guys. Check out the FLX guys. Um, Joe from the Beer Patrol. I don't know if I said that one already. And that's that. So those are the people you check out. Like I said, might see you next time. Hopefully, if I post, I will. Hopefully, guys, keep me inundated with beer randomness at time to time and comments and emails and all that kind of fun stuff. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the last 14 years. And yeah, hopefully, you enjoyed all the beer reviews. Hopefully, you're enjoying some good beer right now. Like I said, hope I'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.